It's Memorial Day weekend, the holiday where we remember fallen U.S. soldiers by getting so drunk we don't remember crashing our boat. But do you know when the holiday started and why? If you have, you've probably heard that it's attributed to Chief John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic. And in a way it is. He proclaimed the first unofficially official Decoration Day on May 30th, 1868. It was called Decoration Day because people would go to the graveyard to decorate the graves of fallen Union soldiers. After that, it was officially recognized as a state holiday by New York in 1873, and by 1890, all states had adopted it. Following World War I, it evolved from being a remembrance of Union soldiers to being a remembrance of soldiers who died in all wars that the U.S. has fought in. A quick side note to just completely wreck your perception of time: veterans who fought in the Civil War would have been in their mid-60s during World War I. 49 years separates the last shots of the Civil War and the shot heard around the world that started the First World War. And the oldest Civil War veteran, Albert Henry Wilson, died in 1956. That means that there was a dude who fought in the Civil War who was alive when Eisenhower was president. Granted, he was 106 years old, but still, just let that mess with your head for a minute. Now that your perception of time is thoroughly fucked, back to the story. In 1971, Congress made Memorial Day official federal holiday and set its observance to the last Monday in May. But there's more to the story, and the whole idea of Decoration Day was happening before the Civil War even ended. In fact, some women were decorating the graves of Union soldiers while the war was still going on. But the first recorded observance of an actual, Memorial Day in the way that we sort of think about it today, after the war, was in 1865. And this is the reason I'm telling you the story. On May 1st, 1865, formerly enslaved people held a parade of 10,000 people to honor 257 dead Union soldiers in Charleston. And for those of you who aren't history buffs, South Carolina was the figurehead of the Confederacy. They were the first to secede, and they were the ones who fired the very first shots of the war at Fort Sumter. They were racist as fuck. You can still go to Charleston today and walk through the auction blocks where they auction slaves off. And then the Civil War ended April 9th, 1865. And less than 3 weeks later, on May 1st, a whole bunch of African Americans throw a fucking parade through the seat of slavery, through the origins of the Confederacy, to honor a couple hundred people who gave their lives to beat South Carolina and the Confederacy into submission. I genuinely cannot think of a better way to rub salt in the wound, give a giant middle finger, and dance on the grave of the Confederacy. That story is just mwah. And there's no formal connection between that and Logan's proclamation, supposedly, but I don't care. That is a way more baller origin story than Logan proclaimed. So now you know the real story, at least the better story of the origin of Memorial Day. A bunch of former enslaved people throwing a parade on the grave of the Confederacy. Happy Memorial Day, y'all.